man who teaches everyone everywhere against our people the law in this place. Not only that, he has even brought Greeks into the temple and defiled this holy place. They said this because they had seen Trophimus the Ephesian in the temple with him earlier, in the city with him earlier, and they assumed that Paul had brought him in the temple. And they assumed that Paul had brought him in the temple. They seized, the entire city was stirred up. They seized Paul and dragged him out of the temple. Immediately the gates were closed. While they were trying to kill him, a report reached the commander of a company of soldiers that all Jerusalem was in a state of confusion. Without a moment's hesitation, the commander took some soldiers and officers and ran down to the mob. When the mob saw the commander and his soldiers, they stopped beating Paul. When the commander arrived, he arrested Paul and ordered him to be bound with 2 chains. Only then did he ask who Paul was and what he had done. Some in the crowd shouted one thing, others shouted something else. Because of the commotion, he couldn't learn the truth, so he ordered that Paul be taken into custody. So he ordered that Paul be taken to the military headquarters. When Paul reached the steps, he had to be carried by the soldiers in order to protect him from the violence of the crowd. The mob that followed kept screaming, "Away with him." As Paul was about to be taken into the military headquarters, he asked the commander, "May I speak with you?" He replied, "Do you know Greek? Aren't you the Egyptian who started a revolt? And led 4,000 terrorists into the temple some time ago?" Paul replied, "I'm a Jew born in Tarsus in Cilicia. A citizen of an important city. Please, let me speak to the people." With the commander's permission, Paul stood on the steps and gestured to the people. When they were quiet, he addressed them in Aramaic. "Brothers and fathers, listen now to my defense." When they heard him address them in Aramaic, they became even more quiet. Paul continued, "I'm a Jew born in Tarsus in Cilicia, but raised in this city. Under Gamaliel's instruction, I was trained in the strict interpretation of our ancestral law. I'm passionately loyal to God, just like you who are gathered here today. I harass those who followed this way to their death, arresting and delivering both men and women into prison. The high priest and the whole Jerusalem council can testify about me. I received letters from them addressed to our associates in Damascus, then went there to bring those who were arrested to Jerusalem so they could be punished. During that journey, about noon, as I approached Damascus, suddenly a bright light from heaven encircled me. I fell to the ground and heard a voice asking me, 'Saul, Saul, why are you harassing me?' I asked, 'Who are you, Lord?' 'I am Jesus, the Nazarene, whom you're harassing,' he replied. Those traveling with me stood there speechless. They heard the voice but saw no one. They saw the light, but they didn't hear the voice of the one who spoke to me. I asked, 'What should I do, Lord?' 'Get up,' the Lord replied, 'and go into Damascus. There you will be told what you must do.' In Damascus there was a disciple named Ananias. According to the certain man named Ananias, according to the standards of the law, he was a pious man who enjoyed the respect of all the Jews living there. He came and stood beside me. He said, Brother Saul, receive your sight, he said. Instantly I regained my sight and I could see him. He said, the God of our ancestors has selected you to know his will, to see the righteous one and to hear his voice. What are you waiting for? Get up, be baptized, and wash away your sins as you call on his name. When I returned to Jerusalem and was praying in the temple, I had a visionary experience. I saw the Lord speaking to me. Hurry, he said, leave Jerusalem at once because they won't accept your testimony about me. I responded, Lord, these people know I used to go from one synagogue to the next, beating those who believe in you and throwing them into prison. When Stephen, your witness, was being killed, I stood there giving my approval, even watching the clothes that belonged to those who were killing him. Then the Lord said to me, go, I will send you far away to the Gentiles. The crowd listened to Paul until he said this. Then they shouted, away with this man, he's not fit to live. As they were screaming, throwing off their garments and flinging dust into the air, the commander ordered that Paul be taken to the military headquarters. Directed that Paul be taken to the military headquarters. He ordered that Paul be questioned under the whip so that he could find out why they were shouting him like this. As they were stretching him out and tying him down with straps, Paul said to the centurion standing there, can you legally whip a Roman citizen who hasn't been found guilty in court? When the centurion heard this, he went to the commander and reported. He said, what are you about to do? This man is a Roman citizen. The commander went to Paul and demanded, tell me, are you a Roman citizen? He said, yes. The commander replied, it costs me a lot of money to buy my citizenship. Paul said, I'm a citizen by birth. At once those who were about to examine him stepped away. The commander was alarmed when he realized he had bound a Roman citizen. The commander still wanted to know the truth about why Paul was being accused by the Jews. Therefore, the next day he ordered the chief priests and the entire Jewish council to assemble. Then he took Paul out of prison and had him stand before them. Paul stared at the council and said, brothers, I have lived my life with an altogether clear conscience right up to this very day. The high priest Ananias ordered those standing near Paul to strike him in the mouth. Then Paul said to him, God is about to strike you, you whitewashed wall. You sit and judge me according to the law, yet disobey the law by ordering that I be struck? Those standing near him asked, you dare to insult God's high priest? Paul replied, brothers, I wasn't aware that he was the high priest. It is written, you will not speak evil about a ruler of your people. Knowing that some of them were Sadducees and the others Pharisees, Paul exclaimed in the council, brothers, I'm a Pharisee and a descendant of Pharisees. I am on trial before you today because of my hope in the resurrection of the dead. These words aroused a dispute between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. This is because Sadducees say there's no resurrection, angel, or spirit, but Pharisees affirm them all. Council members were shouting loudly. Some Pharisees, who were legal experts, stood up and insisted forcefully, we find nothing wrong with this man. What if a spirit or angel has spoken to him? The dispute became so heated that the commander feared they might tear Paul to pieces. He ordered soldiers to go down and remove him by force from their midst. Then they took him back to the military headquarters. The following night, the Lord stood near Paul and said, don't be Be encouraged, just as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so too you must testify in Rome. The next morning, some Jewish leaders formulated a plot and solemnly promised that they wouldn't eat or drink until they had killed Paul.